What up y'all, Chris from the Unrelenting Brush checking in with you today. It's an exciting one. We've got some Legions Imperialis for me to paint up and show you guys how to do it. So I'm painting my guys as World Eaters, as you can see. The glory about painting this kit is you might be intimidated by the size, you might be worried about the amount of detail and effort you've got to put in, but believe me when I say I can paint one of these up in just over an hour now. You can really emphasize on two bright main colours, pick out a couple of little details, paint it all on the sprue to save time and effort, and you will have your epic 30k Legions done in no time. This video will be great for World Eater players, but it'll be great for anyone playing Legions Imperialis, as I'll go through some basics on what to look out for when you're painting your Legions, and help you get them painted up in no time flat while looking absolutely wicked. So first off, prep. As you can see from this sprue, it's sprayed white. I did do an undercut of black and then white for his Zenithal. It's kind of weird to Zenithal these, but doing all over spray and you'll be fine. Clip out and build your Contemptor. Get them sorted off the frame. For the Assault Marines, I clipped off the sprue connections between the jump packs and the frame. Tidied those up a little bit on sprue. Alongside that, the Missile Launcher Support Squad, I clipped off the missile launchers and glued those to the guys on sprue. It's a little bit fiddly, but don't stress too much about it, it's easily done. Keep in mind there will be some guys left over on the sprue, as we've got sergeants and non-sergeants, so you won't need to paint all these figures if you don't want to, but for the sake of habit and practice, it makes sense just to paint them all on the frame as they are. Please don't clip them all out and put them on little sticks, it doesn't make any sense. Use the frame, keep them on there. First off, we're going to do an all-over shade of Soul Bright Grey. So this is a really nice shade, it needs a really good shade, because you can see there, get all that white sediment sorted and out of there. Then all we're going to do is slather our little Marines in this colour. So we want to be fairly generous with this, we want to put it on there to the point where it's not filling the gap between the legs. If you do that, clean your brush off, dry it off and soak up any excess. So the best way to attack this is to paint them on one side of the frame first. As you can see here, I'm doing the backs of these, the fronts of these Terminators. I break the sprue into a half, so halfway between where the Missile Launcher Squad starts and the Tactical Marines start. What I'll do is I'll then paint the whole front of these guys with this colour, and once that's done I will flip the sprue over and paint the back. So as you can see here, I'm moving on to the back of these guys now. When you're painting, hold the frame by the frame, try not to touch the models as you're painting just to avoid any thumbprints or smudge paint. Likewise, it's good to help you spin the sprue around, Jesus Christ. Spin the sprue around to help you get into all those details, those nooks and crannies. These models are all small, there is a surprising amount of detail to them, and we really do want this wash to flow into all those crevices. This shade does a couple of things. It gives us that nice subtle undertone to the white, adds a little bit of depth that we need without having the need to highlight individual models, and then likewise it almost provides a pre-shade for the contrast colours we're going to apply after this. So you'll see what I mean by that in a bit. Again, as you're painting, ensure that the shade you're applying now meets with the shade you put on the front side, so make sure the brush tucks around to the sides of the models to ensure those shades meet and give nice coverage all over. So as you can see here, the first half of the sprue is shaded. I've given it plenty of time to dry, blasted it with a hairdryer where necessary, and now we'll do the other half. So the reason to do this is it breaks up you having to hold the sprue while there's wet paint on there. Also gives you time to clean your brush and to let that initial lot of shading dry. I apologise in advance for any dodgy camera work during this video. I'm not the best at filming these tutorials at the best of times, so thank you for your patience with that. But because we're painting on the frame with small models, the camera will focus in and out and pick up my arm and stuff like that. So I'll do my best to work around it. But hopefully you still get plenty from this video for you to use when painting your own Legions Imperialis. So as we're going, you apply the shade to the model, move it around. If you've got too much on a model, pick it up with your brush and move it on to the next guy. Feel free to wipe any excess off on the frame around it. It's a great place to ditch any excess paint we've got on our brushes, while maintaining speed and cohesion across what we're painting. So as you can see, rapid. Get that shade all over, make sure it's not pooling where you don't want it, soak up any excess. You can thin it down if you want to, but as long as you don't really overload these models, you should be okay. So once you've got all your shade on there, hold the sprue at a distance, have a look, check all the models out, make sure there's not any excessive paint anywhere. If there is, get it soaked up, then give this plenty of time to dry, It's currently -2 degrees Celsius in England, so cuddle a radiator with it. And there we are, this will be one of our main colours, pretty much done. Up next we've got our secondary colour, which is Azuman Blue. This is that nice bright blue for the World Eaters we'll be painting. This is a tremendous contrast paint, it's really, really nicely saturated. However, if you apply it straight over an unshaded white, it is very, almost too vibrant, too luminous. It's kind of like cobalt, which is quite ultramarine-y. So the Soul Blight Grey, which we've got on there, as you can see looking at it, almost acts as a pre-shade. So that means when we apply this blue paint, we'll have that grey helping shade the recesses with a darker hue, while also maintaining that brighter white highlight on the edges of the bits that we're painting. In theory, you could do this for any Bright Legion. You could do it for White Scars, definitely. Imperial Fists, Blood Angels. Applying that Soul Blight shade should give you a more kind of nicely recessed depth to the paint you put on there. So our Azuman Blue is going in all the bits we want to be blue. So this is the shoulder pads and the pack on the backs. So this takes a little bit of finesse and neatness. So again, we'll do what we've done before. Start with the front, do the sprue in halves. Once we've done the front half, flip it over and do the backs. I might flip and change between this just because my wrist and my hand starts to ache because it's quite cold today. And holding a frame in one place for a long time, it can be a bit of a drain. You'll find what works for you and you'll find what is comfortable for you to paint. But neatness here will help. There's nothing to stop us tidying it later, but any mess we can avoid now, the better. So here's our first 3 Marines done with the blue, and as you can see we've got that really nice punchy blue with that lovely little recess that's slightly darker, and that's thanks to that Soul Blight shade. So now we're going to move on to the rest of the models. Terminators just have their shoulder pads to do. Everybody else is pretty much as we've done those 3 guys. So again, swap your colours out for the Legion of your choice. Hopefully this video shows you how easy it is to paint these guys on the frame. In theory, any Legion can be done as fast and to as good a quality. So let's get this blue on there and get these guys on the go. So if we do make any mistakes with this blue, if we get it on the heads or on the legs or the arms or whatever, I've got a backup white to tidy up with. That is bold titanium white from Pro Acryl. It is one of the best white paints on the market, most people will tell you. If you don't have it, get it immediately. You can thin it down so it's not as bright or as pigmented, which means it flows over the mistakes we make easily. So we've not got this stark white fixer against the kind of shaded grey white that we've got on these models currently. So again, moving the sprue around so I can get to all the details I need to, ensuring I've got those shoulder pads on the backpacks done. Here's the sprue. The banner's a little bit tricky framing it with the blue, but again, take your time, be neat, and you can always tidy up if you need to. And this is pretty much it. That's our 2 primary colours down. You could basically paint the bolters black here if you wanted and call it there, but there's a few little steps we can add to this to make it look even better. Up next is a few red details on our sprue. We're going to use Blood Angel's red contrast for this because it flows over the colours we've got beautifully. So less needing to go back, tidy up, pick the whites out and colour in again. There's not a lot of this on these guys. It's on the turrets and some of the cloths and fabrics between the legs of some of the characters on this frame. But again, being as neat and as delicate as we can, it's worth taking the time on these because there's not a lot of them. We're just going to gently colour these in. Now on this step I forgot to paint the shoulder details of these guys, the flowy leathery bits beneath the shoulder pads. So I go back to those later and do those, but painting those now just to save a bit of time. And this is that nice little bit of tertiary colour on the Terminators that make them stand out as the Chapter Elite, the Badmans, the Big Gs. Oh lord, they come in. We've also got the plumes on a few sergeants and the characters of this sprue. Again, very gently pit those out, try to avoid getting this on the helmet where possible. You'll get this weird like null space where detail melds between a head and a backpack or whatever, which is part of the process with plastic injection moulding at this scale. You decide where that ends and where it begins, but don't worry about it, it's on a model that's tiny. It's got to be 3 feet away on the table. Don't stress too much about those details. And don't forget the backs of the details as well. Flip the model around, check what you painted red on the other side, and emulate that. We've also got our apothecary, who's got these little vials around his belt. I'll paint them red because World Eaters. Feel free to drop in some greens or yellows or whatever, that will complement the colour of your Legion. There's our red details down, lovely little splash of colour. Up next, we're going to do some of the smaller details. We're going to do the Legion Vexler on the Tactical Marines back. Dead easy, skeleton horde, whack it on there, bish bash bosh, done. There we go, I filled in those red details I mentioned earlier that I missed. That'll happen a fair bit on this video. Black Legion up next. This is for probably the third main colour, which is going to be the weapons. Majority of the bolters are going to be black, likewise with other weapons. It's a nice solid colour for us to put down and then work around for some nice spotty highlights. A little bit of finesse required here, but not overtly compared to the colour we've done before. Just apply this over all the range weapons, your bolters, your storm bolters, combi bolters, plasma guns, missile launchers. And again, at any point from this step onwards, you can leave it and say they're done. They will look great. But stick with it. We'll do a few little details that'll get these guys looking great. So I'll be very interested to know how you guys are going to paint yours and what Legion. Leave a comment and let us know. I found the Warhammer TV painting videos for these models in this range to be interesting. Why you wouldn't just use contrast to do the body of the work, I don't understand. Again, if that's not your jam, cool, crack on, do what you want to do. But if you want to get a frame of these guys done, painted within a couple of hours, highly recommend speed paints, contrast. I'm certainly excited to do more Legions. I think I'll do a frame of Imperial Fist next and then some Space Wolves, and see where this game takes me. Here we go, there's all our black details in. Now it looks like there's not a lot of colour on there, but that's purely because it's on a white frame that we sprayed. Once you take the frame away, I guarantee they'll look the part. Now we're on to the final few details. I've got some snakebite leather, which I'm going to use for the robes and cloaks and a few other clothy details that I've not painted red, predominantly on the Praetor and a few other bits. Snakebite leather is just one of those really nice neutral colours that I can use for any generic purpose, straps, clothing, fabrics, backpacks, things like that. It's very rare that I don't use it on a project in some form of capacity, so for something like this it's absolutely perfect. The next step is for the sadist in me. A Space Marine should have their bolt pistol holsters, they should have their clobber, their webbing, their little pouches. This is that step where if you want to do it, do it. If you don't stress too much about it. So their bolt pistol holsters are on almost all of them. You can just pick these out with a little bit of Cygor brown or any kind of nice rich brown colour, just to add a little bit more pizzazz to these models. After all, these little details, it will probably take me about a minute to paint them all on there, so if we can, we absolutely should. So very gently doing what we've done before, work from one side then go to the other. Make sure your paintbrush isn't overloaded. If it is, whack it on that sprue just to get the excess paint off. And then once these are done, it's another little detail that we've finished. One thing that might help you get these guys painted to a little bit more of a standard that you're happy with, have some of your 28mm guys at hand, have those new Mark 6s at hand that you painted up, draw inspiration from those, use those as reference, put as much or as little detail into these as you want. There is Very, very little on there for you to stress about, but doing these little extra bits will go the extra mile and make them look fantastic. Wicked! We are very nearly there. It's almost time to go on to those metallic details. As you can see, we've got a really nice, vibrant looking scheme. From the distance, this is going to look absolutely wicked. Metallics are also going to take minimal effort, so let's go on to those right now. We're going to use some Pro Acryl Silver here, but any medium to bright silver will do from your chosen paint brand. Dark Star are great, GW ones are fine. I really, really like this one. So we're going to apply some to our palette, thin it down with a little bit of the older water. Use a nice fine detail brush, anything with a nice sharp point will do. And we're going to go on to these weapon details. Now, swords are easy enough, chain swords. We should have painted those details black. We'll do a little line around the teeth to reflect those. The important bit to remember around the bolt weapons, bolt pistols and bolters are clip, muzzle, gubbins. So what that means is you load your paint up with the silver, you paint the clip of the weapon, you then paint the muzzle, the barrel, etc. Then you paint the gubbins, which I call the bit at the back, which normally is a silver colour. So as you can see on the Storm Bolter, / Combi Bolter, whatever it is, I don't know. You paint those silver, you paint the barrel silver, you paint the drum silver. The close combat weapons that aren't chain weapons, I just paint silver all over. And there we go. I also paint the rear details of the Terminators to be a bright silver just because that's how my 28mm ones are, and why deviate from that. The missile launchers, I just do a little bit of silver on like the launch compartment just to add a little bit of colour on there. Mind out Plasma Man, mind out camera focus. Again, don't need to take a lot just to add these little extra details. The kind of finned bit on the back I'll just paint silver again just to add a little bit of colour and a little bit of interest. Power weapons, power swords, power axes, again just paint those silver all over. We'll do the hilt a different colour in a bit. You can add a wash to these when they're dry if you want to. I haven't. I might do that later on, but for the time being for this video you can just leave them here and they'll look absolutely fine. Right, here's what I'm talking about with the bolters. Clip, muzzle, gubbins. So you paint the clip, you paint the muzzle, then you paint the gubbins at the back towards the chest of the Marine. Now if you've got a chain bayonet on there, do a fine line around the outside of it to cover the teeth. Again, it doesn't need to be immaculate, it doesn't need to be painting each individual teeth of the chain bayonet because we're not lunatics in that regard. So again, clip, muzzle, gubbins. Doesn't take a lot of time, don't need to be too delicate. If it's off, don't stress too much. The size of these guys means you can be a little bit less anally retentive about how neat this is. If that's your jam, crack on. If you want to get these guys painted quick, do this. Clip, teeth, muzzle, gubbins. Right, we're in the home stretch now. We're going to do some little bronze details because world eaters love a little bit of bronze. So for this, you can paint the detail atop the banner, the detail above the Vexler, hilts, handles for weapons. There's some nice little trim on the Terminators I'll go to in a bit. Another thing you can do with this, if you want to, is dot the bonding studs on the shoulder pads of the Marines. I've done this on the first lot. I've not done it on this video because I don't have the focus or the attention to have the camera focus and watch me do it. You can do it if you want to, great. It's worth the effort if you've got the time to spare. If you don't stress about it. No one's going to kick off if you don't paint your bonding studs. I also use this colour for the muzzle on the plasma pistol and the plasma guns for the plasma support squad. And again, you can use it on hilts, the bases of plumes, whatever you want. It's just a nice excuse to add a little splash of colour on there. And don't forget to flip the sprue around and paint the other side of those plasma gun barrels. So here's the nice trim on the Terminators I was talking to you about, as I try and get the camera to focus. So they've got these really nice prominent bits on the edges of the shoulder pad towards the Terminator itself. Again, you can be as neat or as messy as you want to here, as long as you've got the kind of visual distinction between the two colours at the scale we're painting and at the size of games we're going to be playing from the distance of the table. It's not going to make a massive difference. Likewise, they've got those really nice bits of trim around the legs or on their arms. You can add as much of this as you want to or as little as you want to. It's entirely up to you and the time and the effort you want to put in. I also apply it on a little bit on the weapons between like the hammerhead and the hilt, just for another bit of colour in there. Again, these details are all kind of ablative. You can add or as much or as little as you want to add. The final details are those little bits that'll just finish these off nicely. I want to paint the plasma coils of all the plasma guns and pistols with some bold titanium white from Pro Acryl. Again, use this step to tidy up any helmets that are messy, any arms that have got blue on, any red that's spilled over from the Terminators. Just take your time to go over each model and think about tidying up where needed. Now we're going to make those coils glow. Got some Striking Scorpion Green here, which is a new paint I picked up recently. Really nice, really strong, really vibrant. I'm excited to use it on said Striking Scorpions when I get my hands on those. All we're going to do is get a healthy amount on a brush and then gently paint that over that white line we painted on those plasma guns. Feel free to add more. It is a really nice strong paint, and if you want a bright spot of colour, it's on these plasma guns. So just little lines on those with that nice bright green plasma finish. Home stretch gang, Mantis Warriors Green. This is for the eye lenses. Now, don't kick off. Don't say, nope, that's stupid, that's too tiny detail. Watch this. We're going to load our brush up, we're going to pick a marine, and all we're going to do is paint this in a nice line at the apex of the beak where we think the eye lenses are. They are sculpted in, they are very, very small, but that's why we're going to let this contrast paint do the work for us. It'll settle into those tiny little divots where the eye lenses are, and leave a nice airy green glow around the side of them. You can be messy at this point. The more paint you apply, the more prominent you'll notice the eye lenses are. We can always tidy this up later on. So again, as you'll see, load your brush up, paint a line across the face or the helmet of the Space Marine, and you'll notice it settle into those eyes beautifully. So we're going to do this across all of our little beakies here. Now as you do this, you're going to make some mistakes. You're going to cover face plates with it. You're going to have it pouring down the front of the mask. Don't worry, by the time you get to your 3rd, 4th, 5th Marine, you'll find what works for you and what the right amount is. If you overspill, you can quickly use your thumb or finger to wipe away the excess. If you don't catch it or it's somewhere you can't wipe, don't worry, we're going to go over that in a bit with some white, which will act as A, a fixer, and B, a highlight. Trust me on this, it's worth the effort. Gonna hit it with that good old don't worry it'll be reet attitude. So here we are with that white. So you'll see on some of those Marines the greens overspill massively. So I'll just ensure my brush isn't overloaded. I'll do a bit of white at the beak of the helmet and then a little bit on the forehead of the helmet. And not only does that tidy up the green, it also gives us that little bit of a poppy highlight where the white's cleanest. which around the head of our marine is where we want it. So I'll go over each marine, do a little bit of a tidy up, a little bit of a highlight, just to mute down that green where it's gone a bit mad. And that gives us our green eye lenses and our nice highlighted helmet as well. At this point, go over each marine carefully, think about any areas you've missed, any colours you've missed. This is the time to tidy up because we're just about at the end. So have a look, check your blues, check your reds, check your browns, do what needs to be done because these guys are about to get on the bases and looking fly. And here we go, we have a frame of fully painted World Eaters ready for Legions Imperialis. All we need to do is sort out our transfers, which I will do another time. Then what we do is we paint the tactical rocks they're on the same colour as our base, which for me is a kind of dark neutral grey. Don't worry about colour matching it to any dry brushing stuff you do, it's not going to make a difference. There we are. As you can see, it's a lot easier than maybe people have impressions of. You can get these whole sprues painted in an hour or two, get them looking fantastic. So let me know what legions you're going to paint yours as, let me know what colours you're thinking, I'd love to hear it. If you've enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, follow and subscribe and other cringy social media plugs, I'd really appreciate that. Check out my website, theunrelentingbrush.co.uk, Facebook, Insta, all that stupid stuff. It really does make a massive difference in helping me keep being able to do what I need to do and improve and do more of these tutorials. So any likes, follows, subscriptions, following me on the socials, really does mean the world to me. Likewise, get in touch if you need any painting tuition, if you want to get something commissioned, if you want to just chat about advice for painting. If I can help, I would love to. Thanks again, have a wicked one. Peace!